All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. I'm your host, Patrick Moran. Thank you for locking in, whether you're listening to this in audio podcast form, hopefully sometime on Tuesday, or if you're watching this on video, quite possibly live here on the YouTube side or on Twitter. Appreciate you very much. Today, well, the stream anyway is on Monday night. I'm joined a day later than normal by my partner here, my weekly partner, Tim Pucks, both fighting some illness, man. It's by the way, 20 seconds before we started rolling here, I just realized we had no time at all, no prep talk at all, no nothing. We don't even know what the fuck we're gonna talk about for the most part. But anyway, feeling a little bit better. You couldn't be with me yesterday. You didn't want to come over for the game or didn't do the post game. You were sick. I've been feeling it as well. I feel a little bit better. How are you, man?
I'm about the same as I've been. I've had the month long, well, not 30 days as of yet, but all of December, my entire household has been battling a cough. And I wouldn't say that I was any worse for the wear yesterday than I was, any other day, but just the whole vibe I was getting from you is that I could easily get out of this one, yesterday. So I ran with that. So I'm about the same, but I was never really that bad.
I woke up on Sunday and you're right. I did give you an easy out. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to do a show because I felt really shitty. And then the Bills just played so good. I'm like, there's no way that I'm not going to put out a show, tape it on Sunday night and put it out on Monday morning. I feel better, but I've just coughed so much the last couple of days that literally the rib cartilage is killing me every time I cough. That shit sucks. We'll talk some Bills today. We'll kind of like micro and macro, maybe takeaways from Sunday's game. Maybe we'll get in a little bit of Sabres talk as well. Before that, though, real quick, because if I don't talk about this at the beginning, I'll forget. I wanted to talk last week a little bit of baseball with you. You're a big baseball guy. Ohtani. I mean, last time we talked previous to the signing, it looked like there were a lot of reports that made it seem like he was headed towards Toronto. Of course, he ends up going to the Dodgers. Want to get your thoughts on that, and also wanted to get your thoughts on Juan Soto getting traded, pretty big trade to the New York Yankees.
Well, a little bit of a letdown with Ohtani. If he would have found himself playing an hour away, I would have found my way to, to get there. Maybe not a ton this year. You definitely, I think want to see him throw, if you have the chance, and we're a year away from that. So little bit of a bummer there. And then, the team that he went to, I guess it's better than the Angels because that would have been super boring. But, now you just, this Dodger franchise is doing what they're doing. They're building a super team, and, and they still find ways to fumble it at the end. Does adding Ohtani, make a difference there? You never know. I mean, that's baseball. So you'll have the same sort of dynamic as you usually have with the regular season, a team that probably wins 105 or so. And then you'll see what kind of difference he makes in the postseason. But it was a little bit of a dud. The end result was a little bit of a dud with Ohtani.
What about Soto?
I don't give a shit. I mean, I want the Yankees to. It's better when the Yankees are relevant.
Sure.
Soto is a guy worth following. He's someone who could have gone somewhere. He's the type of player that could have gone somewhere and fallen off, even a big fan's radar, unless I were invested in shares of his on the fantasy side or something like that. There's a handful of places like the places that he's played, you know what I mean? Washington and San Diego, where you just ain't paying that much attention to Juan Soto. But in New York, you're going to have no choice but to pay attention. So from that regard, I think it's cool. I'm not rooting against him. Like, I don't want to see him put the Yankees over the top and have to listen to my corny Yankee friends, you're yourself amongst them. But I also wouldn't mind seeing Soto play up to that potential that I think has eluded him a little bit,
Sure.
over the course of the last couple seasons from where the trajectory that people thought it was on when he first made the move from Washington to San Diego.
One last thing about Ohtani, then we'll get into some Bills talk here. It still blows my mind. Baseball, just sports in general, to have a team that has probably the two best players in the sport on the same team for a number of years, Ohtani and Mike Trout, and they never won shit. Like, that's crazy, man. To have two players of that skill level and to never win nothing. That'd be like kind of like LeBron playing with, I don't know, name a top 5 player in the NBA and him and LeBron playing together for years and not winning anything or not even getting, a real opportunity to win anything. That's always been crazy to me that the Angels could have two players like that and still not win shit.
Well, they just had bad supporting cast, man. I mean, there's just huge mistakes that if I spent some time, thinking about, I could rehash. Anthony Rendon, big signing comes to mind. Never really getting the arms where they wanted, having a couple of tragedies, from the pitching staff and stuff like that. And then, Trout's injuries from time to time, although a lot of times those happen when they were already out of it. So it was a bit of a surprise, to see them win nothing together. But the tandem that came to mind, when you were trying to find a comparison using LeBron, for me, it's kind of McDavid and Draisaitl, in Edmonton.
Sure.
I know they've seen some playoffs together and stuff like that, but two elite guys, without really much to show for it. And I think that's hockey and baseball for you, right? I mean, you've got so many other pieces in those two sports that have to come together for you. In basketball, man, if you got two studs you're not going to be able to play them for 48 minutes or whatever, but still their impact on the game is impossible to quantify. Sure. It's just it's huge, and you don't really have that in hockey and baseball, which is why sometimes you'll see star tandem players not win anything.
We're about a little less now, a week away from Christmas. Let's get into some Bills talk. You rolled up here, so we were going live on the video side anyway. Like 8:15 we started on a Monday night.
I rolled up here through a little bit of a weather issue, just so you know. All right, there was like a fucking bang up right at the Union exit and shit like that. Meanwhile, you got me out here like I'm fucking essential personnel or some shit. All right, I mean, I'm just saying.
Tell a bunch of the Kenmore guy. I'm in West Seneca, so I'm in the South Towns. You're going to, not that you've never been out here. Like, we have some friends where this is foreign territory right now. Like West Seneca may as well be like Cattaraugus County or something like that. So that's not the case with you. You come through here, this area enough, but the South Towns is a different animal in the wintertime. Anyway,
well, the kids
in the north.
The kids grew up, a good chunk of their childhood in North Collins, man. Yeah, and, I mean, I'm always, right. I was always heading out that way. I had a stint in Eden in grades 4 through 9 where like I wasn't driving yet, but I was familiar with the Southtown driving conditions and stuff like that. So I'm no stranger to it. But luckily, and I don't know if I've ever told you this. We'll get to the stupid fucking Bills in a minute. I honestly believe that I am in the 97 percentile of drivers in the world. All right, I do. There are a lot of bad drivers out there. All right. Mm-hmm. A lot of bad drivers, and even more just very ordinary drivers, which I would consider, it's been a while, but I would consider you to be middle of the, you're a very ordinary driver. I don't think you were ever very good or very bad. On the other hand,
that's fair.
All right. I just find myself to be an exceptional driver. I do. I'm not lying. it's just, I'm always I'm always 2 steps ahead. Okay. I'm paying attention to the lanes around me. Great peripheral vision. I don't like speed. I'm not like a tailgater or anything like that. I'm not reckless by any stretch of the imagination. I'm very, very calm behind the wheel. Like, that's it's the scene in Hannibal, or the original Silence of the Lambs, when they're telling the story of Lecter eating one of his patients, and they had the heart monitor connected to him, and the heart monitor like never skipped above something, and then they said, the point being that his heart never raced. You know what I mean? Now, mind you, it's not the same as cannibalism, but it's the same basic principle of my heart just doesn't like when people, like, when someone, like, I gonna make a lane change that other people would like really freak out about, and maybe, that overcompensation that gets people, that just doesn't happen with me. I'm just like, and like, if I see that lane change coming, I'm not laying on the horn to get everybody all fucking frazzled. I just give it a boop, boop. I'm here. That's all. Boop, boop. I'm here. And, so I remember the Lenovo's days, dude, when it was just like no one was on the road. No one was on the road. And Lenovo's wasn't fucking closing. And I would just have the roads to myself for like just pocket and loot. And it was fabulous, man, because I was so fucking comfortable in it. So as much as I want to, like, complain about the driving conditions that you made me come out in, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm an unbelievable driver.
I've been in a car with you enough. I never really paid much attention to your driving prowess there, which is funny. So you're saying you're a really calm driver. I could see it in a way.
I get my road rage.
I was going to say,
but I never.
You're a hothead. How are you a calm driver and a hothead at the same time?
Because all I got to do is let out a fucking cocksucker, and just stay. You know what I mean? It's like what my body is doing. What my heart rate is feeling. Is just it just stays on the level, and I just make sure that I get out. Something vile. Usually, I think that's the first time I ever dropped a CS on the show. And it's funny though, man. I remember the first time it ever happened with O'Sherry. Like O'Sherry, we have what's called, the shortcake factor. Whereas, you got to stay kind of calm. She wasn't ready. All right, for hothead tone pucks during the courting fucking days of the relationship.
Okay.
Then we were driving one time, man, and somebody got me, and I was just like, "You fucking motherfucking mother," and I just do what I do, not even thinking. She's never heard, that sort of escalation from me.
Sure.
She's never seen that level of escalation from me. And as soon as I was done, man, like, I looked over and she had this look like, oh, God, like she was flabbergasted. But
well, it's good to know that you're a good driver. Coming from
that
Kenmore,
is good to know, isn't it? I mean,
I really don't care.
That's interesting stuff right there. It's what the people want.
There's not a lot of scenarios where I will be in a car with you. I guess you never know, but I will keep that in the back of my mind next time a situation arises where you are giving me a ride somewhere. So you're coming from Kenmore to West Seneca, not bad now. Might get a little shittier in the next hour or so, but there's going to come points this winter where your driving expertise is going to come in handy. Now, of course, don't get me wrong. I'm very happy that you're here with me and that we're, sitting here and we do this in person, whether it's live, whether it's taped, whatever it may be. At the same token, for somebody who, is so knowledgeable with sports and has a lot of talents in their toolbox, is borderline unfucking believable to me that you can't figure out how to make your phone into a webcam on your own just by looking up something, and then you would be sitting right now at your crib. Maybe not this episode per se, but certainly other ones, because you're incapable of like switching two things on a computer and converting your phone into a webcam. So you don't have to come here in person.
A lot of things in play there. All right. First is general laziness.
Yeah.
Second
That's
is,
fair.
well, yeah, because it's not just that. I mean, what do you think? Do you really think that little setup that you made for me a few weeks ago or like a month or so ago is still the way that you set it up? All right, with my two monsters running around in the basement down in the bunker. I mean, I don't know where the fuck half that shit is that you gave me. So, I got that in play, and then speaking of said two monsters, it is nice to get out. You know what I mean? I do like the excuse to get out of the house as well. But I'm hoping that very shortly we'll set it up down there. I want to have I may want like a casualist type setup where I'm sitting like like on one side of a couch or something with the mic over.
You could do that. We could do that.
Might do something like
That'll
that.
work. That'll work. All right. So this game on Sunday, I don't want to say yesterday because most people will be listening to this on Tuesday, but the game Sunday, I'm not exaggerating. I literally have not spoken one word to you about this football game itself. You came here like 10 minutes before we went live here tonight. So I guess I'm asking this for the first time. I want your overall take on the game, and then I want to spend some time talking about James Cook specifically. But I also want to note that last week when the Bills beat the Chiefs, I think to some extent you would agree with this as well. I feel like because I listened back to it, and sometimes I don't listen back to our show. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But this one I did. And I was thinking to myself, maybe that's because the seed was planted in my mind in real time while we were doing it. I feel like neither of us, especially you, gave the Bills enough credit for going on the road to Arrowhead and winning a game against the defending Super Bowl champions, whether they're struggling or not, whether their offense has been pretty bad all year or not. That's still the Kansas City Chiefs on the other sideline. And we spent, and not just you, I mean, it was me too. So it's talking about luck. Like it was just like the Bills got lucky. And in a way, they certainly did. The Tony penalty at the end. Who knows how the last minute 14 or whatever plays out? Probably no. But anyway, my point is the fact that the Bills never even trailed in that football game for 1 second. And I feel like we didn't give them enough credit. I just want to make sure I'm not going to speak for you with this game against Dallas, but I just feel like I want to put that out there that we were both a little bit negative, I think, going back to the Kansas City game because I don't know. I thought it was more than luck. Maybe you disagree. That's fair.
No, I don't. I came off that that little bit of a negative adrenaline kick.
Mm-hmm.
That I had immediately following that game. I came off that pretty quick, and
sure,
kind of got back to a place where I started to get to following the Jets game, which is that this team remains a Super Bowl contender. You know what I mean? Like but what I needed the follow-up game. A lot of times, and anyone who's paid attention to the show, at least when I've been on, might remember going all the way back to the beginning, maybe coming off a bad loss or something like that, where a win against somebody, although in those cases they were usually easier opponents. I think back to like the Raiders and the Redskins, and I just kept saying I've got to see it against Miami. Some of those wins, all right, I needed to see bracketed with another good performance, and we weren't getting that. You know what I mean? This week it's exactly what we got. The Kansas City win feels different, takes on a different sort of look to it when you follow it up in the convincing fashion that they did. And I'm not shocked by it. I don't know how much I really have to say about this game that hasn't been said, other than to say that it did not come as a surprise. I'll tell you something, man. Early in the morning, not early in the morning, but like before the 1 o'clock started, I went to text an old dear friend of mine, guy as well, uncle from a previous marriage, big Cowboy fan, my Uncle Mike, who ran the football pool. I mean, I'm talking bananas going back to Staubach, Cowboy fan. I've been to Texas Stadium with him, back in the Danny White years. He bleeds the silver and blue. I went to text him in the morning, happy Greg Bell Day, which I don't know how many people would get, but
I do.
You do, and
14-3 victory, 14-3. Greg Bell had, God, what was that? That was like the Bills won like 2 games that year.
Well, yeah, it was
84?
a 2-14 year. It's not really the total from the day that that was the story. It's the 85-yarder from scrimmage on the first play of the game.
Okay.
That's the one that, I mean, he ended up, like, I think, pushing a deuce. But it was all about the 85-yarder to start the game. I remember that,
Sure.
specific yard amount, that sort of thing. So I went to bust his balls a little bit just by sending him the text. And then I did one of those things where I, clicked the phone number by accident and tried to hang up real quick, but it still gives that little, half a ring on the other side. And the person inevitably calls you back. So he gives me a quick buzz back. We chatted for a few minutes. I mean, this guy is one of the most honest Dallas fans you'll ever hear. All right. He's like, yeah, we're not going to, he's like, you guys are probably going to roll today. He goes, he knew all the Dak road woe stats. He is a Dallas fan who refuses to let himself get fooled by Dak again. That's fair. That's okay. Just where, I mean, it's the sort of discipline that he has to just say, nah, man, it's just never gonna happen with this guy. And I took that. I can't bet the Bills. It's just something I can't do. I can't lose a game of my favorite team and money at the same time. It'll fucking just drive me nuts.
Yeah.
But when he told me that, man, I was like, I was already starting to feel a certain way about it. And when he said that, I was like, man, we very well may roll today. And I'm not shocked that we did. What an interesting way to look at that. You want to talk about the Dallas game, we can, bro. But for me, we'll look back at this era, and this season is just going to be like such a story. We're going to go into that final game with the likelihood. I don't want to, assume victories with the next two, but for the sake of a pragmatic way of looking at it, we're very likely may go into that last game looking at a win and a division title and hosting a playoff game, and a loss, and we fucking go home.
Yeah.
That's bananas,
man.
Is. It's bananas. And it's what makes it that much more, interesting is the fact that we're not talking about, a get in and cross your fingers. We're talking about a get in and we're as much the favorite as anybody.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And to be in that spot, I can't remember the Super Bowl years, even the brief Flutie years, and the beginning of this era, which is now, into its 4th or 5th year or whatever. I can't remember anything like this where it may come down to, I think the Bills won in 92 or 3 may have had to win their finale to go 9-7 and win the division title. So this might have had something goofy might have happened.
Well, that was the 3rd year, I think.
Before with them.
I think that was the 3rd year.
So maybe, you know what I mean? It's like we don't even spend 30 seconds before a show to talk about it. So I'm sure shit not going to research any point I'm about to make. But the point still remains. The stakes are insane. We might be going home, or we might be the AFC favorite. What the fuck,
I saw a crazy stat that I saw on Monday, a betting stat, is the Bills are the 7th highest betting favorite right now to win the Super Bowl today, which is crazy because the Bills are currently like the 10th seed in the AFC. Like, there's as good of a chance that they don't even make the playoffs, as let alone win the division or get in.
I would have thought higher than 7. I'm
7.
Even 7 sounds like who the hell are the 6?
I don't know. I didn't look at the 6. All I know, Frisco's number 1. That's all I know. After that, I don't know, but I do know Buffalo was 7th. Yeah, this Dallas game, I talked a lot about it yesterday, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about Dallas specifically. I was calm. I don't know if I was calm because honestly, I didn't feel well. Again, I was laying on the couch just bumming around all day, but you've been over for some games. You know how crazy we both get during the course of a game, and I wasn't doing any of that. And this game stakes were big. I mean, I was losing my mind. The Chiefs game, you were here for half of that. The Philly game, you and Jason were here watching that game here. You watched the whole game here, actually. Everyone's living and dying with every play. I was like really calm on Sunday. Now, I don't know if it's because I felt the same thing. I was just really confident that the Bills were good. Dallas is a good football team. And look, they, hopefully they get their shit together next week, of course. But yeah, they're not the same team on the road as they are at home. They're only 3-3 on the road coming into this game.
They had they had to look like a good team who was about to fucking lay an egg almost from the get-go, man. All right. They just stupid ass penalties. You know what I mean?
3 of them.
They moved the ball.
Gifted the Bills 3 touchdowns, bro.
They moved the ball a little bit in their first series, but it didn't take long to see that this Dallas team was poised to have another one of their road collapses.
Yeah,
they were awful. They were awful yesterday. All right, they were bad. If I wanted to be nitpicky, all right, about the KC Dallas bracket of W's, it wouldn't be hard to be nitpicky. Neither one of those teams played well. Neither one of those teams played well.
Okay.
All right, but they're excellent football teams. One's a Super Bowl champion.
And
one came in with 10 wins, arguably, one of the 3 hottest in the NFL, and you got 2 W's. But I think the teams, I think Kansas City and Dallas had what I would consider to be off days.
That's fair, but I would say they also played a football team that was they were in desperation mode for those 2 games. And Josh Allen, a lot of quarterbacks and coaches say a lot of shit during the week and whatever. Josh Allen has been saying for 2 weeks now, this is playoff time for the Bills. Essentially, these are playoff games. And I truly believe that. A couple comments real quick from people who are watching on YouTube. Going back to that Kansas City game, Savannah says that they should have ran more in the second half against Kansas City. I mean, old news, but he is right. I agree with that. They should have ran the ball. Dave Anderson and Jason M wanted to say, what's up? Yeah, they were off days for Dallas. And by the way, you're talking about stupid plays and stupid penalties, man. If you really think about it, I mentioned this yesterday. All 3 Bills touchdowns on the first half, all of them were because of Dallas personal foul penalties on 3rd down and 4th down plays when the drive was over. First Buffalo touchdown, 3rd down stop, Josh Allen, incomplete pass, gets hit in the head by Lawrence. A little bit of vacuum.
Not hitting the head. He was not hit in the head.
It was a penalty. Was it a penalty?
It was called a penalty.
All right, so personal foul penalty. That took 3 off the board, and then they scored 7. Second one was the punt. Dallas made a stop. Buffalo punts, and the guy roughs at the kick. I wanted to say running in. No, he roughed the kicker, personal foul penalty. Bam, Bill scored a touchdown. 3rd drive, 3rd down stop, high throw. Khalil Shakir doesn't come down with it. Gets hit from behind. Personal foul. Bills scored a touchdown. All 3 Bills touchdowns in the first half came because of really dumb Dallas penalties at when not even on 1st or 2nd down. These were 3rd and 4th down penalties. The drives were over, and they gave Buffalo a chance to extend them. So when you say off days, I would definitely include that. I mean, they literally kind of gift wrapped some drives for the Bills. But unlike the Chiefs game, like I said, I am not going to take away from this performance. It was a physically dominating performance. That might have surprised me a little bit.
Too. Sorry.
Go ahead.
He spent like 5 minutes just talking about how Dallas just got pushed around the field against the Niners, and all he could talk about, all right, was how they just get pushed around by more physical teams. I mean, my Uncle Mike.
Okay,
I mean, the man just like such an honest. Everything he said. All right, we only talked for like 10 minutes, but everything he said about his football team, the man knew his football team like the back of his hand, man. He was like, Frisco. Now, he wasn't predicting that the Bills would necessarily push them around, but he knew his team was very susceptible to being pushed around. And man, I didn't see that coming. I didn't think this team had it in them to go out and
good coaching on Sunday for the Bills.
Good
game plan, execution. I thought coordinated on both sides of the ball was really strong. Hats off Sean McDermott. He's down a couple key defenders again. Say what you want about Dallas on the road and their lack of physicality and whatever. And your uncle is very smart and knows the team well. But the bottom line is Dallas had won 5 straight games and was averaging 40 points per game over the last 5 coming into Orchard Park. And this Bills defense, for the most part, really shut them down, man. And that was without Micah Hyde. It was without AJ Epinesa. Really, and not to mention, the injuries that they've been dealing with now for quite a while. I just thought it was a really good coached game on both sides of the football. Sean McDermott, we can say what we want about him, and we will continue to do that. But, on this day, I thought he had this team ready to play. I think as a defensive coordinator, I thought he did an excellent job. I mean, there was one pressure, the play where Leonard Floyd got a sack. Jordan Phillips is lined up as an edge, and Leonard Floyd comes in as a stand-up inside rusher, hits that gap, that guard gap, and got a sack on that play. The Bills just did a lot of good things with coverage. They made CeeDee Lamb a pretty much a non-factor. Pollard was a non-factor. So, I don't know, man. I got to give it up to Sean McDermott. And, of course, Joe Brady. What is up with the running back usage? Why did it take Joe Brady becoming an offensive coordinator to start understanding that the Bills have good running backs who could just not run the ball, but could also catch it on the backfield, too? It's crazy.
Well, I like doing this on Monday because we've had the opportunity to see some film breakdown. I know, it's midweek when the more in-depth all 22s get broken down.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw one site. I think it was Cover One. Pointing out the flipping of the running back in the shotgun. Now I'm wondering if it was Dan Orlovsky, but it was somebody had the film of it, and Eric Wood referenced it on his spot today with Shope and the Bulldog about how they were moving Cook around to isolate him in the run gap of like a 208-pound linebacker that they have. But the touchdown to Cook was also a flip in the a pre-snap movement in the in shotgun from one side to the other to isolate him on number 33, the far bigger, and less skilled in coverage running back. So, or linebacker, excuse me. So a lot of good info pointing to the X's and O's, have come out already, and it's not even full blown all 22 season yet. So it's cool. It's great to see, Brady's usage of these guys. I was never one. It's the Kansas City game. I guess I understood people clamoring for more carries. But, man, it really took me up until right about now to get to a place where I'm like, James Cook has to touch the football X number of times a game. I wasn't there, man. I really and truly wasn't there. When he sat for the fumble, or when people thought he might have been sat, but he wasn't, for the drop against Philly and stuff like that. I was out on James Cook, man. I thought the stats that people were pointing to were kind of like, kind of like podcast stats. They're inflated. But I wasn't there yet. On Cook. Yesterday was really the first time I saw him start to make. Yeah, even though the holes were massive, I also saw him take 5 to 7 yard carries and turn them into 13 with his vision and his burst. You know what I mean? Like even bouncing some outside where, sometimes you're watching a game and you're like, why didn't he bounce this outside? Right? The outside always looks like it's more open than it is, because usually, someone on that defensive side is going to close within 2 or 3 yards. Not yesterday, though, man. I mean, that once he bounced outside, that second level was just empty. And that, I think, is a product of another thing that we've been seeing a lot of, along with the the backs flipping sides pre-snap, is the tackle pull plays. The tackle pull plays has been pointed out in a lot of places already, and those are something, man. All right, those are big boys. All right, pulling the complete opposite hash with some speed and some purpose, man.
Spencer Brown had maybe the best game of his career on Sunday. He had an enormously high PFF grade. I think he had the highest run blocking grade per PFF of anybody in the NFL for this week. Look, James Cook, and then I want to take a break and then we'll continue with James Brooke. But when it comes to James Cook, it's fair to say that can be frustrating at times. I mean, that Philly game, he dropped that wheel route touchdown. He also, because I remember watching the game with you and our boy Jay, I was yelling at the TV early on. He just didn't seem interested in contact. Like whether it was getting to the sidelines or just not taking it on or not breaking a tackle. There's times where it just doesn't seem like he's 100% locked in and fully invested. He had a drop on Sunday for a touch. Someone who gives a shit. I mean, the damage was clearly done by Cook. And I'm just trying to I'm being a little bit unbiased because I'm saying I've been mad at him at times this year. I've watched him play at times this year, and I'm like, where is it? Where's this guy? Like we saw yesterday, because he was a different James. He was Thurman Thomas yesterday. I heard a lot of Thurman Thomases. That's kind of like on the graphic for this episode. He played very Thurman Thomasy. That's kind of what he's looking like right now. But there's times this season, and maybe those are behind him. Maybe that's part of his growth and maturation. I don't know, but there's just been times where he doesn't seem to have that physicality and some mental lapses.
Yeah, I think about what, the plays that you're referring to. And for me, it was more about field awareness at the time. He pulled up short on a couple first downs that were like, my God, dude, just finish the run. And we've got a new series.
Yep.
I don't know if it was, really related to saving the hits on those particular plays, or at least in my mind, that's not what I held against them. I held, just the general, awareness, situational awareness against them. But whatever it may be, I didn't have a problem with the fact that that he was underutilized. I didn't feel as though he's the type of player that is being underutilized, because I didn't think utilizing him more was necessarily, what I wanted.
Right. 25 carries yesterday.
Yeah.
Career high. Most he's ever had. He never had that in college. I think he had like 11 or 12 was his career high in college.
Look, I just need him. I need to know that when those plays are there, he'll make them.
Yeah.
I don't need to go into fucking games, all right, making sure James Cook eats. I just don't, man. They don't even go into games making sure their wide receiver one eats sometimes. Okay? This team, and, I think it's always been this way with McDermott. This team wants to be multiple in what they can do, and they want to look at what you're not good at and attack that. And, if I don't need to make it a point to attack a defense with James Cook. I just need to know that when they give me the looks, that he can go, just rattle off 9 and put you in second. I mean, my God, it was like 9 yards, 10 yards, 9 yards, 10 yards. I mean, I just need to know that he can do that. That element is there. And I think that might be a little different than what others say. I think others might say no. All right. He's the third leading player. Well, in scrimmage yards, if you include include Tyreek.
Yeah.
That boy's got to eat, I don't know that I'm really looking at it that way yet. I just need him to be able to do that
when
that's the way the defense is playing. But if you start paying attention to James Cook, if you spend your week as an opposing defense worried about where James Cook is going to go,
Yeah, you're bringing 7-8 in the box.
I think it's advantage Bills, bro.
Sure,
I think it's advantage Bills if you start worrying about James Cook as a defense.
Yeah, for sure. I want to take a real quick break. You brought up something about Joe Brady that as soon as we get back, which by the way, on the video side is going to be literally in 5 seconds. I want to head on what you said about Joe Brady as well. All right, I'm back with Tone Pucks here. We're talking Buffalo Bills, James Cook, Joe Brady. Before the break, you mentioned something that I completely agree with. Finding the weakness in a defense and kind of exposing it. And that's what I'm really starting to see more and more of that I like from Joe Brady. He seems really good at exposing a team's weakness. And in this case against Dallas, this is a defense, a lot of hybrid guys, undersized guys, and they're not really physical. And the Bills just decided on this day they're going to be really physical. This was not a day to throw the ball 35 times with Josh Allen. And even though, again, what did he throw 15 times for the game? I think he dropped back 19 times for the whole football game. You could see early on, like the couple times where he was throwing early on, that pass rush was there in his face. He was running a lot. He had to scramble. So you could tell that the pass rush was going to be a problem for the Bills. And then they just really committed to the run. And they were mauling the Cowboys. I forgot the guy's name, but yeah, they have a 205-pound middle linebacker. You know what I mean? It was the ability of Brady to just say, all right, this is the weakness of this football team and attack them. You know, they had a lot of success against the Jets throwing the football. If you would have told me Josh Allen was going to throw for under 100 yards, Stephon Diggs was going to have less than 50 yards receiving, Gabe Davis, no catches, Shakir, no catches, Kincaid, no catches, Knox, no catches, and you win this game going away comfortably, I would have thought you were a little bit nuts, man. But, good job by Brady. I said, good job by McDermott. You know what we keep hearing? Nobody wants to play the Bills. That's what we're hearing. Everybody around the league is saying that right now.
Sure.
I did a little bit of research here because I've been trying to rack my brain if the Bills actually, before I get back, we'll get back to that in a second.
All right, then let me say something on Brady.
Go ahead.
I had no intention of coming in and making this statement. It just kind of is happening organically. I think Joe Brady's a fucking superstar. All right. I mean, I think Joe Brady's is.
Did you feel that way about Dorsey at any point?
No,
I'm asking you an honest question. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm legit asking you.
I was when
he was the hot young toy. It seemed like a year ago.
When Dayball was was getting the Giants job, I was worried about losing Dorsey. All right, so I wanted to make sure that he was retained so that some of the same concepts and things like that. I mean, I just didn't want Josh to have to completely start over. So I was high on Dorsey in that regard. And then nothing last year really jumped out at me as far as, having an issue with the guy. But look, he may still, find his groove. But sometimes you just kind of lose your rhythm and it can derail a championship contender season. And, you become the scapegoat, whatever. He'll get another look. You know what I mean? Just like when Joe Brady was, hot shit coming out of LSU. And then, maybe not the same scenario as Dorsey. I think a little younger also than Dorsey. But, he wasn't part of a potential championship team in Carolina, but he got his NFL OC gig there, and that team just went to shit and, Rule scapegoated him or whatever. But man, you just watch what he's been doing in these few weeks. You listen to him talk about offense and stuff like that. And you just see the body language of an extremely confident play caller right now. I think
that matters.
I think Joe Brady's a superstar. I think he's got I think Joe might have a few years to go to polish up on the head coach level, which is great for us, right? Just, we can ride him. We can probably get 2 or 3 years out of him before he's head coach ready. But as far as running offenses, man, yeah, like I'm talking conceptually from what I've seen so far, especially doing it in midseason. He's got Mike McDaniel's type of offensive play calling skill, man.
You could see, for different reasons, the players have responded to Brady. I think Brady has injected some life into the offense, and I think the players have responded. And without going down the Sean McDermott story, that rabbit hole again, what I think we do agree on is, regardless of how you felt about that story, players have rallied around him. It was certainly publicly anyway, and I believe that this team's been galvanized some by rallying around McDermott because of that story, rallying around Joe Brady because they believe in him and they believe in this offense. And I think that's made a difference. Look, the Chiefs, you said it, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, they didn't play really good games, but those are still two really good teams that the Bills had to beat and that they beat. So got to give a lot of credit to that. And James Cook, yeah, maybe you don't need him to have 25 catches or carries a week, and that's probably not going to happen. But his numbers, man. So he had 221 total yards on Sunday. He's had more than 100 scrimmage yards in 5 straight games now. And sometimes it doesn't seem like that. Like I said, very Thurman Thomas-y. 2 times he's ran for over 100 yards. He had 83 yards receiving in the first half against the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. So he's a huge part of this offense now. And it is good to know, because there's been times this season, dude, where I feel like if they can't get Stephon Diggs going, they got nothing on offense. But now, we've seen glimpses from Kincaid. And now we know James Cook had. I believe in James Cook and Ty Johnson a lot more because of the OC. Say what you will about Dorsey, and we've talked about this, and I still believe there's at least some sentiment to the fact that I think it was Sean McDermott who handcuffed Josh Allen from running the ball with his legs as much as he is now. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that shit, but I truly believe that. I don't think Ken Dorsey ever had that stroke, and I know you don't think that either. But anyway, you could debate that. But one thing you can't debate is Ken Dorsey did not use these running backs in the way that Joe Brady is using them now. Not just running the ball, running the ball too, because they look like different rushing concepts, but also throwing the ball. Ty Johnson, dude, was just riding away on the practice squad. I'm like, what are we doing here with this guy? And now all of a sudden he's a useful, borderline significant part of, complimentary piece of this offense right now, man. I love it. I love the way they're using the running backs.
Well, we had that one game with Dorsey real early in the season where we sat here enamored with his use of the running backs when, like, Murray, Harris, and Cook.
All Raiders, maybe?
Raiders or Washington. It was one of those two early ones where we were gushing over the running back usage. But
not in the passing game, but
I get what you're saying. What you're saying. He's finding weapons that and ways to weaponize players that that Dorsey just didn't find. Dorsey just hit a wall, man. Dorsey just hit a wall, and Brady's been huge, just huge. It's looked like a completely different offense, and it does go beyond, because I have definitely been one who was all about the fact that it's coinciding with McDermott taking the handcuffs off of Josh, and that being a big part of Brady's success. But it does go beyond that. You are starting to see the imprint in places beyond just the quarterback runs, and it's why you have every reason to believe the Super Bowl contenders back on the table.
You get in
back on the table. That's crazy. I took Super Bowl off the table
after
Jacksonville.
A lot of people did.
And, because of a lot of injuries, and a lot of teams, a lot of middling play in the AFC, it's back on the table. But you've got to get to the tournament, as Bill Parcells would say. You just got to, man. And you know, like you said today, not that you were breaking any news either. I don't know if anybody really heard it for the first time from you and was like, oh, that's very possible. Everybody fucking knew or knows that the Bills Dolphins finale is probably headed to Sunday night. All right. I mean, you put it out there today, like, hey, I just had this.
I didn't see anyone else tweet that.
Man, shit. Say I've been talking about that shit for the last week and a half now. I'm just playing. Anyways, I'm just my hope is that, there's some 1s and 4s that just take the pressure off that game, because it will be so, that scenario will stress the fuck out of me, man. Win and we host a playoff game the following week and win a division and win the division, lose and it's over that night, bam, midnight, 11 o'clock, whatever. Man, will that be a stressful football game.
It will. And it is crazy, dude. I legitimately, and I'm not being a homer, I think the Bills are the best team in the AFC. I swear to I honestly feel that right now.
You haven't seen enough Ravens to say that.
I think I have. I don't think they could score with the Bills if Buffalo has the type of football game that they want to play. Can Baltimore beat Buffalo? Absolutely. And the game would definitely be in Baltimore too. So, I mean, that might matter as well. I'm not saying the Bills, I'm not dismissing the Ravens. I think the Ravens are the one team in the AFC that I would be really nervous about playing right now. And the Bengals, if they had Joe Burrow. I've mentioned that many times before. And the Jets, who are going to be nowhere near the playoffs. I don't give a fuck if the Jets are 3-14. I do not want to play the New York Jets ever in any kind of game, because they just play like shit against them, minus the last time. But yeah, look, so for people who don't know, Miami plays Dallas and in Miami this week, and then they play at Baltimore. If you're the Bills, and look, if the Bills can't beat the Chargers, and who's fucking
New England?
Easton Stick, I think is the quarterback for the Chargers now. I'll
tell
you what though, last Thursday, I was kind of getting pissed. Like when they were getting shellacked by the Raiders, I'm like, fuck, this guy's going to get fired tomorrow. I did not want Staley to get fired on Friday, but you knew it was coming when they got murdered by the Raiders. That always scares me. Teams tend to play hard for an interim coach. That scares me a little bit. They want to have a little bit of pride in themselves. But anyway, Easton Sticks their fucking quarterback, and then they're at home against the Patriots, who beat Buffalo in Foxborough earlier this year. If you can't beat those two teams, what are we doing here? What are we even having a discussion about? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's assume the Bills win those games.
I'm not coming on if we lose either one of those games.
I might not do a show.
I'm not coming here or doing it from my house. I might have no interest. No interest in talking about it. Then
what would you do if you were a professional radio talk show host? Would you just not do certain post games?
No, I mean, if it's the job, it's the job. You know what I mean? If there's some coin involved,
that's
I'll
let me get to my point. Let me get to my point. So Miami is playing at home against Dallas and then at Baltimore. For people out there who are wondering, assuming the Bills win their next two, if Miami loses just one of those two games, week 18, Buffalo versus Miami is literally for the division. If Miami loses both those games, week 18 is still the same thing, because they'll be tied in the standings. And if they were to beat the Bills, they'd finish ahead of them and it would be a tie. So if you were wondering, the Bills having a chance to win the division, yes, they win their next two, and Miami loses to either Dallas or on the road against Baltimore. And those are both losable games, especially if Tyreek Hill either is not playing or not close to 100%. The playoffs. All right, so let's say Miami wins both those games, and then the Bills are not playing for the division. Then they're just playing for a wild card. If the Bills win out, they're making the playoffs. All right, let's just put it that way. It's not mathematically a certainty, but it's going to happen. If the Bills go 11-6, 11-7, they're making the playoffs. It's just the way it's going to be. 11-6. I'm not going to go through all these because we'd be here all night. And honestly, I spent probably 90 minutes today just studying all these other teams and where they're at. So you're going to have to kind of take my word. Otherwise, I'd be doing a half-hour exercise here. I think Cleveland's getting in for sure. They're already at 9 wins. And they're still playing the Jets at home. They still playing. Well, they got at Houston and at Cincy. I mean, those aren't given games with the injuries. The Bengals, that win against the Vikings really fucking sucked. Yeah. If you're a Bills fan, I mean, that really sucked. They're at 6 losses too with the Bills. They're at Pittsburgh. No, they're at Kansas City, and they play Cleveland. The thing that concerns me about Cleveland, that Week 18 game, is if Cleveland's already clinched a wild card spot, they might not even be playing starters in Week 18. They already know where they're going to be. You know what I'm saying? Colts are playing the Texans in Week 18. One of those teams got to lose. So if the Bills win, look, the Bills, just take my word. If the Bills win out, they're making the playoffs. But if the Bills lose one game, or if they lose that Miami game, now you're talking 10 wins and 6 conference losses.
Yeah, I don't need to.
They're in trouble.
Put
it this way.
I don't think 10's getting it done. Okay. I don't think 10 is getting it done.
I think they said there's roughly a 50% chance of them getting in if they get to 10. But I'm with you. I don't think 10's getting it done either. Not for Buffalo. 10 will get it done for teams that have, like Cleveland, who's 6-3 in the AFC, or the Colts are, 6-4. One of those teams are 10 will get it done. There's going to be 2 teams for sure, probably, that get 10 wins that are getting the playoffs, maybe even 3. But I don't think the Bills at 10 will be one of them. They can, but it could end up being Tone. And the only other Week 18 game I could potentially see being flexed to nighttime is Houston and Indy, because that might be a win and in game for the winner.
Yeah.
Plus, the division's still in play in the AFC South, by the way, too. Jacksonville's got 6 losses.
Very much in play. There's like 3
that
teams
could be in play,
at 8 and
but
6.
If the Bills, can you imagine if the Bills play on Sunday night, and let's assume they win their next 2, and that finale is Week 18 against Miami, I think you would know going into that game if you need to win to get in the playoffs, because all the other games would be decided.
Yes, that's what
you would already know.
That's exactly what I mean. If that game comes down to win and you're in, or and you win the division, or lose and you go home, if everything's decided, but that it's as stressful as an AFC championship. All right, that's what I'm willing. If that game becomes, because I do think, though, on the flip side is Miami won't be up against the same fate as us. All right. I think it might be lose and go home for us. I don't think Miami will be in a lose and
I don't think so either.
And
have 10 wins
and have to go home sort of thing. But I think because of tiebreakers, it may very well be that case for us. And I'm like,
if the Bills won,
that would be crushing.
If the Bills, the best case scenario, of course, would be the Bills play Sunday night against Miami and they're already in the playoffs, because they would have 10 wins with 2 more.
Right.
So they would be sitting at 10, and it would take over the next 3 weeks lots of other things to happen. But it's at least possible that the Bills could go into a Miami game already secured with a wild card spot. And if Miami loses, the Bills actually have nothing to play for. Or if Miami doesn't lose a game, I should say, the Bills potentially could be in the wild card with nothing to play for, because Miami wins their next 2. They can't catch them.
If they knew that going in, yeah.
Right, then maybe they sit their guys. That's the best case scenario. I think realistically it's going to be you got to win. I agree with you. I think you got to win out. If you win out, you're making the playoffs. If you don't, then you're not. I did write down one scenario where the Bills could win out and still not make the playoffs.
That's not.
Miami wins out. The Browns win 2 of their last 3. Cincinnati wins out. The Houston versus Indy winner also, because they play each other, whoever wins that game also wins their other 2 games, and the Jags win out. So it's technically possible, although unlikely. I'm just saying it is possible that the Bills could win out and not even make the playoffs. But anyway, it's hard to not look past the fucking Chargers and the Patriots. It's just really hard. These games, I'm still going to go back to the same thing before we get out of here.
That shit'll ruin fucking the holidays, bro. They lose one of those 2 games.
When you look back at the season,
Chargers loss would ruin Christmas, and a Patriots loss would ruin.
They're not losing the Patriots.
I'm just saying,
not going to lose to the Patriots. There's no fucking way that they're losing to the Patriots. When you look back at the first, 14 games in now? What's the one thing singular thing that sticks out for you the most? Maybe you agree with me. To me, it's the Denver loss. I think I said it at that moment, more than the injuries in Jacksonville. I think the Denver loss singularly was the biggest loss of the season, because you could bitch about coaching, you could bitch about players and mistakes, and the game was over. There was 0 seconds left on the clock. The kicker missed the field goal. The game was physically over, no time on the clock. And then special teams head coach communication wasn't there. Leonard Floyd doesn't get off the field somehow, and Denver gets another chance when the game was over, and then they win the game. Right now, if the Bills were 9-5 instead of 8-6, it'd be a completely different tone right now, man. So that's the one I can't get past. Patriots, you shouldn't never lose to the Patriots. I get that. But whatever. Teams have shitty stinkers. The game was over in Denver. The Denver game, I should say, in Buffalo. The game was literally over. That's what I can't get past.
Yeah, I don't really reflect on it too much. It was a bad first half strategy. Look, McDermott.
None of it matters though. The game was over.
I get all that. I don't mean first half in terms of the Bills Broncos game.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right.
I think McDermott is a very meticulously planned kind of guy, and I think he wanted to hit stride this time of year. I think everything as far as hitting their stride at the right time is going according to Sean McDermott's plan, except for the fact that I don't think he got 6 fucking losses,
3 or 4 losses.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And the injuries. But I don't know exactly how it looks. I would say it probably looks a little something like we're not going to run our quarterback for the first half of the season. Probably looks something like that. But I don't know exactly how a coach would plan to try to be hitting stride at the right time. But I know he's got to feel like that eluded him last year. Like they hit their stride early. Like they looked like they were ready to go 17-0 with what they did to the Rams. All right. And in the season opener last year. Sure. They just came out of the gates like loaded for bear, man. Yeah. And then, whether it's the DeMar stuff or whatever, even before the DeMar stuff, though, I feel like
they were leaking some. The Vikings lost at home.
They were not playing their best football late.
Sure, they played well early. I agree,
and I think I think he probably took some measures, going into this season as he planned the whole season out. He probably took some measures that would allow them to be in this spot, to be playing their best football. Again, I don't know exactly what those would look like, but I think you might start with taking it a little easy on your quarterback in the first half of the season.
That makes sense.
And it bit him in the ass.
Makes sense.
It bit him in the ass because he just probably didn't expect Dorsey to get so overmatched, in the other areas.
I think it makes sense to not want to run your quarterback as much early in the season. I completely agree with you. And everybody says, this is a team you don't want to see in the playoffs. And the funny part is that's literally true because we both agree if the Bills are going to make the playoffs, that means they're going to win out. I mean, almost certainly they're going to have to win these last 3. And if they do, now you're playing a team in the playoffs that's on a 5-game winning streak, a team that just beat Kansas City, Dallas, and they're going to have to beat Miami probably to get into the playoffs. On the road, too. 2 of those 3 games on the road.
Who's the favorite in that game? Buffalo, Miami. Like, I'm ready to go as far as to say, even and in any other team's stadium, okay, even though, like if the Bills were to win the division, they would, they would have a home game. But Baltimore is the only team that I could see being a favorite over the Bills in the playoffs. And even at that, I think it's less than 3. I think the Bills are favorites at Kansas City. I think the Bills are favorites I think they'll be favorites against Miami in week 18.
Because they'll be on a 4-game winning streak.
I think they're going to be favorites against anyone from the South. So in reality, all right, they get to the playoffs. They're the second best team in the eyes of Vegas, and not even by that much. Because if you go neutral field, it's the Bills, right? I mean, if if the Bills make the playoffs, how much different are the Bills' odds to win the AFC having to play 3 games than Baltimore's are having to play 2? It's not going to be that wide. That's how fucking real it is. That's how real, it is to be able to get to the Super Bowl this year all of a sudden.
I think if the Bills played at Baltimore in the playoffs, Baltimore maybe is favored by 1.5 points. Maybe.
I got it at 2, but we're in the same ballpark, and that's the only team, right?
I think so.
That's the only team. Maybe the books will come back and look at the books, like, these are like guys on the West Side calling, the big books, the Vegas odds makers. Maybe they'll look at the Kansas City game and say that it was the Tony penalty, and they had the line right at 2 or whatever for KC, but I don't think so. I think Vegas. I think people start pounding us if we go to the playoffs. I think people start pounding us because they know what's up, man. We're ready to go on a Super Bowl run, but we just don't even know,
because they're not going to limp into the playoffs.
Just don't know if we're going to make it.
They limped a little bit into the playoffs, a little bit last year,
crazy.
Anyway.
Crazy season. That
will not be. Yeah. Real quick here, I have the moment. Say, can we just take it 1 week at a time? I just want us to beat the Chargers in LA. That's all I want right now. Very fair.
I'm fine with that. I got nothing to talk about when it comes to the Chargers. I mean, honestly, if you can't beat Easton Stick, man, fuck this, blow the whole thing up, man. I got nothing else to say at that point. Like I said, I won't even come in.
I couldn't. Probably not. And then one other comment too I wanted to point out. Jason M. He says being desperate is how it ended up happening. He's talking about this run and getting hot and playing right at the right time, but that for sure was not the plan. I mean, there's some truth to that too, as well.
I got to
rallying.
Not like like I'm being a jerk off to take issue with that, but no, being desperate wasn't the plan. But playing your best football at this time of year,
sure.
All right, I think is something that if he felt he could manipulate that throughout the season, not by losses, what I mean, but maybe by taking it easy on your quarterback, maybe even taking it easy on James Cook a little bit, just saving these touches for this time of year. Like I said, it might bite him in the ass because of the desperate situation that it put them in. But I will stand by that one, that I think there was some element of wanting to be playing your best football right now.
One of the biggest criticisms I see on social media about Sean McDermott, and I got plenty of criticisms for him, but this one I really don't know that I could get behind, was that Ken Dorsey was fired too early, or that this should have happened a month before. Can you give up? I mean, you don't think, like, in hindsight, yeah, I do wish he would have got him fired, maybe after the Giants game or something, because I have no doubt in my mind the offense comes out better and I keep going back to that fucking Broncos game because I think that's the killer. But I don't know, man. That just seemed, even at the time, even after firing him after the Denver game, it just felt awful almost early. It's like, well, why did you bring him back after year one? Do you agree? Do you think?
I thought it was a week late. You know what I mean? I do. I think he was a week late with it. I think he needed to do the like, you got to help me out though. Who was before Denver? What did they do? Beat Tampa or something to go to 5-3? Can't remember.
I can't remember. They won, but I think it was an ugly game, and I think it was Tampa, because didn't they have like a bunch of primetime games in
I just think I think
in a row there?
Yeah.
No, I'm looking it up because it's going to drive me crazy.
Just a week or two late, man. I felt like he was a week or two late with it. There was that one stretch.
It was the Bengals, by the way. They lost to the Bengals, and then they lost to Denver. They beat Tampa, so they lost 3 out of 4. They lost in Foxborough to the Patriots. Then they beat Tampa Bay at home, and then they lost to Cincinnati, and then they lost at home to Denver. So what you're saying is if it's a week too late, then you're saying he should have got him fired after the Cincinnati game,
which is tough because that's a Sunday night, and
on the road.
But
That's
then
what I'm
again,
saying.
Denver was a Monday
And the
night.
New England game, I mean, they
know?
sucked on offense for the first half, but they still ended up with 25 points. Tampa they scored 24 points, not a pretty victory, and they could have lost that game, quite frankly. But I don't know, man. How do you fire a coach? You're not firing a coordinator after a win. So if you're not firing him after Tampa, the only other game, if it's a week too late, would have been after Cincy. Man, look, I wish in hindsight they would have, not brought him back for a year or two and went with Brady. I don't know, man. There's lots of things I could get mad at Sean McDermott about, but I don't know about the whole he got fired too early.
Well, look, I mean, if
he's a coach, though, we're
if
fucking
we get
podcasters.
there, if we get there, man, if we get there, then he fired him right on time. You know what I mean?
Right.
It all comes down to getting in. If we find a way to get in, we're unless we lay an egg, maybe in week 1 of the playoffs or something like that. But if we find a way to get in,
there's so many possibilities.
We're gonna probably be okay with it. You know what I mean? Like, we're not gonna call for McDermott's head. We're not gonna call for sweeping changes. We got the change that we wanted. You know what I mean? If we get in,
I'm looking at it this way.
I can't finish that sentence for some reason. I don't even know. It's really, it is. Look, the story of the season, it's had a ton of ups and downs and ebbs and flows, but
and they're not done.
It's not going to be written in until the next 3 weeks.
No, for sure not. But it's funny because the Bills, if they win out, they get in 11 wins. They're going to be they could be the 2 seed. They could be the 2 seed. Baltimore is going to be the 1. Kansas City and Jacksonville are only 1 loss, or Jacksonville's got as many losses as the Bills. So if they lose even 1 more game and the Bills win out, Bills finish ahead of them.
And if KC, what's
1 loss for Kansas City. I don't know who they're playing. I know they're playing Pittsburgh. That's one of the 3 because I looked at, the other contenders here. But yeah, if Kansas City stumbles once, Bills can be the number 2 seed.
Yeah,
or they can be the 7 seed. And they could be out. It's fucking nuts.
It is.
Before we go, do you have anything that you want to say? And this will definitely turn most of the audience away, but any Sabre stuff that you want to get off your chest?
I'm looking forward to what a healthy lineup looks like. This team needs to keep its head above water. All right.
I keep saying that, but they're barely doing
I hear you. I have personally targeted January as the make a move month. Okay. Somebody on Sabres Twitter, maybe about a week ago, threw out the January schedule. Okay. It's fucking soft.
Yeah.
It's super soft with tons of home games, man. All right. That's got to be the move month. That's got to be the make a move month. So, I want to see him get healthy.
But they can't fall further back, though. They can't fall further back before January. They still got a half a month left here in December. It's not the amount of points, it's the teams that they got to
I understand that. I just, give me the January somewhere between 4 and 8. And then just go nuts in January. That's where I'm throwing all my eggs in that basket, dude. Like, all my eggs are in the January schedule basket. I want to see them.
Moves are coming
nuts.
now. Hands are going to, as long as no one else lets Skinner get healthy, a couple other guys get healthy, hands are going to be forced now to make some relatively, by their standards, at least tough decisions. Because I put out a tweet today, and I don't even need to look it up because I know it by heart. I love the thought of a healthy Sabres team, man. Real quick here. You got Tage, Tuck, and Skinner. You got Cousins, Paterka, and Quinn. You got Middlestat, Greenway, and Benson as your 3rd line potentially. And then you got your 4th line with Krebs, Okposo, and either Gergesons or Robinson. Olafson's probably a healthy scratch who gets worked in once in a while. And they probably waive like Tyson Jost. Get rid of that 3rd goalie. It's got to come at some point. But anyway, my point was those 12 forwards, those 4 lines, I like the sound of that, man.
Yeah, they just haven't been able to roll out a consistent third scoring line this year, which, you want to think with the way they set up down the middle with Thompson, Cousins, and Middlestat, that they could get those three lines out there. But, it started with the Quinn injury. Actually, you could say it started with the Savoy injury, but Benson's emergence kind of cancels that out. But then, Quinn's injury was huge. And then just, ticky-tack injuries along the way, whether it's Tuck, whether it's Thompson,
Skinner.
They just Skinner, they just haven't been able to put a dangerous three lines out there. But I think you just, kind of said as much in your line rollout. I think when they're at full strength, they do roll three. They do have three dangerous lines.
They do,
but they've been so dependent on the top six, during the early part of this season because of some of the injuries. And then, when you're not getting shit from the fourth line. I mean, there was that one game that was a lot of fun where Robinson, had a 3-point. That was great. But for the most part, you're not getting any level of consistent scoring
from Arizona game.
From that fourth line. And then a third all of a sudden, disappears. You put a third line out there of Tyson Jost, fucking Olafson, and Brett Murray. Come on, man. That's garbage, that line. But when you start getting guys like Quinn, Greenway, and Skinner back, all of a sudden, your third line is formidable, and that's the difference to me. That's how they, that's how they'll get back into this, when they can just roll out three lines that can score.
Yeah, I said all I want for Christmas is the Sabres is just have one fucking game where their 12 best forwards are all healthy and playing at the same time, and their best 6 defensemen as well. That Arizona game was frustrating because they win at home and the fourth line goes out and they dominate. And then Saturday they beat Vegas on the road, and then they get shut out on the road against Arizona and UPL, who played pretty well, but gave up the dumbest fucking giveaway you'll ever see for a goal.
Again, I look
at
that,
the Sabres.
But that one was more kind of reminiscent of what I identify as, the problem, and that's the scoring. You know what I mean? The 2-0. That's the type of game that I would use to further my point that it's really been the scoring and the lack of it from anyone in the back half of that roster.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for this episode. I think we got to get you hooked up for remote, or no, you can still come next week's Monday's Christmas. I don't know, fucking figure it out. But the Bills are playing. I'm at Sabres Bowl now. Bills are playing Saturday night, so we ain't doing shit Saturday night, and probably ain't gonna do shit Sunday as Christmas Eve. I don't know. We'll figure the shit out, but just beat the Chargers, man. I mean, a couple people in the comments, which, by the way, people who stuck around and watched us live on the video side and dropped some comments, we appreciate you very much. Appreciate our sponsor of today's episode, Imperial Pizza, as well. Let's beat the fucking Chargers, man. Beat the Chargers, or there's just no point of even talking about the Bills anymore this season. If they lose to the Chargers, once you get your bearings together, we'll be talking about mock drafts and free agent signings and fucking salary cap casualties.
And using Dawson Knox as your Swiss Army knife, Taysom Hill. I'm serious. I'm serious. That's the future of Dawson Knox on this team. Joe Brady, we ain't gonna get rid of him. Joe Brady's gonna figure out how to use him, and he's gonna be a fucking H-back, a tight end too, and he's gonna be like lining up under center and taking some of the quarterback sneak hits off Josh.